Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another week of Good Guys Sports, joined by myself, your host, Blake Gerke, Jackson Gerke, and Mike Roby. And we might have a couple of special guests joining here shortly, so do stay tuned. But, gentlemen, last week we did a big preview of the big game, as they call it, Super Bowl 60 between the Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots. We gave our takes, we gave our predictions. We even had on a special guest Patriot fan as well, given the other perspective. But as you can tell by Jackson's Zoom background, if you're watching on YouTube, the Seattle Seahawks were victorious in this game. In case you're living under a rock, 29-13 was the final score, with Seattle taking home their second ever Super Bowl trophy in comprehensive fashion against the New England Patriots. And you have to say, I think all of our analysis and predictions was pretty consistent with what I think happened in the game. And you have to say the way the game played out, in my opinion, was consistent with what we've seen from these two teams throughout the regular season and the playoffs, i.e., the Seattle defense being dominant, the Patriots offense really struggling, particularly in that first half, to really even move the ball, 1 inch, let alone 1 yard, against that Seattle defense, wasn't it? So, and then of course Seattle putting some points on the board early with some field goals, eventually getting some touchdowns, some turnovers late in that game. But ultimately, I think Jackson, I'll start with you. The story of the game was a dominant Seattle defense stifling the Patriots, right? That's kind of the main reason why Seattle took home that Lombardi, right?
That's right, Blake. The Seahawks defense shut the Patriots down through 3 quarters, meaning a scoreless first half. There were not any touchdowns scored in the first half by either team, which made the game, which made the Super Bowl boring by most people who were
Uh,
watching this
depends.
game.
Depends who you ask. Some people like
Well,
defensive football, but a
right.
neutral probably doesn't. To your point.
Well, right. But the last time I've seen a game played like that, you have to go back to the 1974 Super Bowl where it was before the pre-era of the Steel Curtain, where they pretty much shut down the Steelers. And anytime a Super Bowl champion was shut out in the first half, many instances they all lost. That's how it usually goes in those instances. So I think for so I think for me that I believe in the 70s the Steelers and the Vikings played in a game like that, and the Steelers won that game, and yeah, the Seahawks, like you said, Blake, the Seahawks defense was dominant. They 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 were all over on Drake May. He so he had 6 sacks, 19 pressures, and the offensive line had a tough test. And
He was seeing ghosts out there, wasn't
yes,
he?
well, yes, he was, and that was way before Sam Darnold was, if you can really put it in words and believe it, and even thought that this would even be happening in the world that we're living in, and how the Seahawks even got there. Well, like you said, Blake, it was in large part because of their defense, and it was it was really named by their big players. Nick Imamare, a former South Carolina Gamecock who was listening out there. I hope he longer is listening to this. That he is a
You
Irmo.
know I am,
Hey,
Jackson.
Blake
Go Seahawks.
Lonberger, I got to let you
Go
know, shout out to Nick
Seahawks.
Imamare, who got drafted um, last year and is now a former Gamecock who was born not far from campus, a Irmo, South Carolina native, who is happened to who is one of their leaders on the Seahawks defense. But it doesn't stop there. Ernest Jones made big plays. Devin make big plays. The bottom line is the Seahawks defense were all over on the Patriots and Drake May, and and eventually the the only um the only touchdown that they scored was by AJ Barner. Like I want to say late third quarter or early fourth quarter range, right around that time frame there, and that was and so that was pretty much the only one they scored. But the only other time where they scored a touchdown was on a
Pick six.
was yes on a pick six fumble return
Interception return, yeah.
pick six return by a touchdown by I want to say so yeah I just want to say by
Let me ask you a
by Ernest
question.
Jones and RV and those guys and really and yes really and really the scoring defense is really is really why the reason the Seahawks won that game and and part of why the Seahawks think about it is why they won the Super Bowl is because of their defense and they
For sure.
and they made big plays and 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 Ronald Shanita, Jackson Mixon, Jimbo, although they had early in the game they had a wide open throw and a bunch of completions, but aside from that, they were able to they made adjustment at halftime. It was a long time to show the Super Bowl, which I thought Bad Bunny of the performance was great. There were a lot
Let
of
me ask
Spanish,
you,
a lot of
Well,
Spanish. Well, yeah,
Jackson,
yeah,
let's let Blake chime in here. Blake,
yeah.
go ahead, man.
Blake. Go ahead, Blake.
I just
Sorry.
want to ask you, Jackson. No, you're fine. I just want to get your take and everybody's take. Mike, and Mike's been around the sun, I think, one more time than me. But I want to get y'all's take
Or
on
two.
and start, Jack. Where does this rank Super Bowl wise? Because like you said, it's a pretty solid defensive performance. We didn't see a lot of offense out of the Patriots. Where does this rank Super Bowl wise for you guys?
Oh, that's a great question, Blake. I am going to be ranking this with the '85 Bears and the 2002 Buccaneers elite defenses. They are this
So you put it
Seahawks
in that
defense.
category of elite defensive Super
Yeah,
Bowl
that's fair.
performances,
Yeah,
I
right?
right.
do. I do. Yes.
Okay.
I
I throw the 2000 Ravens in there as well, right, Mike? In terms of like historic Super Bowl winning
Yeah.
teams led by their defenses, right?
Yeah. Well, I would classify it as probably the best defensive Super Bowl ever.
Wow.
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 So you're going number one
I'm
Super
going
Bowl
over.
defense. Yeah.
You look at the end of the third quarter. It's 12-0. You know, nobody was scoring.
I think it
And
was, yeah, yeah,
last week I made the comment, take the points.
right.
And that's what Seattle was doing.
They were
To
more than happy to just keep chipping away at
taking
field
the
goals.
points, keep chipping away. All of a sudden now they're leading 9-0 at halftime and then 12-0 at the end of the third quarter.
Mike,
It almost felt like the field goals were worth touchdowns, Blake, given like how dominant Seattle
yeah.
defense was playing, you know?
Well, and to Mike's point and your point, I feel like if you're taking the points and taking field goals and happy with them, I feel like you really believe in your defense. If you're happy with three and taking the points, you have a strong belief in your defense.
Yeah. I think there was close to 15 punts in the game.
Yeah, it was really a game for field goals and the punters. And I think the Seattle punter could have made a shot for him being the Super Bowl MVP the way he was pinning the Patriots back for sure. But I'll go ahead and bring in our special guest, Davis. Thanks for joining, man. Returning guest here on our Super Bowl recap show. First of all, let me just get your reaction to the Super Bowl. Obviously, Seattle taking home their second crown over the Patriots as a whole Super Bowl package. Did you enjoy the game, and what was your reaction after you watched it, man?
Yeah, I mean, enjoyment of the game is a little bit tougher when it's such a defensive battle like that. I think you can really appreciate what Seattle's doing. I think we've had more exciting Super Bowls for sure, but I completely agree with you guys. One of the best defensive performances we've seen in the Super Bowl in my lifetime for sure. Really reminded me of that old Seattle team that they had when they won the Super Bowl last time
Of
around, and
course.
some of those early scary AFC
Legion of Boom.
teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure. I think that's a good shot because we honestly forgot about. I mean, the last time Seahawks won Super Bowl, obviously, they were really led by that defensive performance against Denver. It was in that game. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's really a case of I don't know if Jackson. I'll ask you. Like, I personally was not surprised how the game went. Maybe you can say it's surprising how little offense the Patriots generated. I mean, they couldn't really move the ball. Drake May was kind of he was I don't know what he was doing for a lot of those throws to be honest, but I mean that's kind of like what I thought, Jackson. Like the Seattle defense was dominant. They limited what the Patriots were able to do. Eventually, the game kind of opened up late into the game, but by the time the Patriots were able to get that touchdown to I think Hollins, it was late in the game. I mean,
Yeah.
it was kind of over at that point, right, Jack?
Yeah, it was. Although Seattle did punt in the fourth quarter, and that was where you thought New England had a chance to get back in this thing. Although I did kept thinking to myself that it was too little, too late, and that that New England did I thought did everything that they could, but it was just a little bit too late for this comeback that they were trying to put in because think about it. If the Patriots were to score a touchdown early and score first, then maybe things would have changed things differently for offensively for Drake May, Josh McDaniels, and Mike Vrabel. But let's put it in perspective. It is not his fault.
Whose fault?
The Patriots' fault. It was because let's face it, Blake.
I mean, they did lose.
Well, they
And
didn't
somebody
lose.
has to take
Well,
like whose fault is it then?
It's
Look.
a good
It wasn't.
question.
Look. It wasn't their
I want
fault.
to blame somebody.
It was their fault. Like it was the Patriots' fault
Oh,
because
okay. Okay.
let's face it,
That's good.
they were they had the biggest test, and they were up against a very
Yeah, for
talented,
sure.
better Seahawks defense, and that was really which you got to give a lot of credit to, and that's really
Of course, yeah.
why they lost that game because of this elite Seahawks defense,
Jackson, you know what?
and so sorry, Blake. I'm trying to finish up here, but
Okay, okay,
and sorry
go.
about that. And my point is that it's going to be hard for the Patriots to get back to the Super Bowl for Drake May. Look at what Joe Burrow did and Dan Marino in that category.
Mm.
They never got back to the
Nice,
big game.
Jackson.
And
Nice.
so I think it's and so the Patriots schedule as much softer and easy it was, it is not a one and done in the NFL. Look at what the Commanders did when they went on this magical run for Uncle Mike's team when they had Junior Daniels as their quarterback in his first year as rookie QB. Same exact thing. So I think the Patriots in those categories, that it's not easy. It's not easy to get back in the stage. It never will be.
Right.
And so I think I expect the Bills, Bengals, Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos, Raiders, who by the way are potentially going to
Raiders.
get Kurt Kubiak
What are you talking about?
as their head coach and just and go all in on Fernando Mimoso as their QB.
Okay.
And so
Go ahead and make your Raiders AFC champions bet right now because that ain't gonna happen. But
well, yeah,
no, I get your point. I get your
we
point.
say that
Overall,
because
it's no. I think it's a good point, and I think that you see that a lot where a young quarterback gets to the Super Bowl and you think, oh well, they're young and they'll make it back. But like circumstances change, injuries happen, all that. So it's a good point. You never know when you'll be back. But Blake,
Right.
go ahead, man.
Oh, I gotta walk. I've got a business meeting unfortunately tonight, so I'm gonna walk in. But I'll say this one last point:
Go
the Washington Nationals have a saying in their coaching staff that it's okay to have butterflies as long as they fly in formation. And my question is, were Drake May's butterflies flying in formation, or were they a little out of sorts? Because he seemed rattled.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Maybe Davis, I'll throw this to you in terms of Drake May's performance. Left a lot to be desired. Obviously, you have to say it was a great season from him overall, but the moment was kind of maybe a bit too much for him. Is that kind of how you saw it?
I mean, I think so. I kind of thought his whole MVP candidacy was a bit rushed. I don't know. It felt to me like he was playing very efficient football, but he wasn't making a lot of those plays that you want to see from an MVP caliber quarterback. Some of those off script, wild throws that only a handful of guys in the league can make.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he's quite there yet. I think he can get there, but I think some of those kind of chips in the armor started to show in the Super Bowl a little bit when he was facing a high caliber defense and under pressure for a majority of the game. So
yeah. No, I think like Jackson mentioned, possibly an easy schedule. That crazy game out there in Denver where you are, Davis, where like the Snow Bowl and the Patriots didn't have to do that much. I mean, they had a similar strategy to the Seahawks where they're just taking field goals, giving the ball back to their team because you're confident they're not going to be able to score. But I don't know, Mike, in terms of the Patriots' performance, like Jackson mentioned, like who do you blame? Is it a case of, well, they're just kind of happy to be here given first year head coach, second year
They got
quarterback?
beat. They got
Yeah.
beat by a better team.
Yeah. I mean, it's
that's
simple as that, right?
And I don't think May had for the first three quarters. I don't think he had that bad of a game. The fourth quarter, he kind of fell apart, but I think that was more pressure from the time remaining.
Yeah.
I mean, that one touchdown throw he laid out, that was beautiful. But he also had 3 turnovers in that fourth quarter. And I think he was trying to do too much because he wasn't getting any kind of blocking.
Yeah.
And I think he tried to take the team on his back, and it just wasn't going to happen.
No, for sure. And I think that was kind of their formula throughout the season was relying on Drake May to make plays and get them out of a hole. But when you're coming up against a team, a defensive unit as good as Seattle's was this year, and things aren't going your way.
Look at
then...
the previous 2 playoff games that the Patriots played. They gave up a total of 10 sacks before the Super Bowl against good defenses, the Texans and the Broncos, and the Seahawks got the best defense in the league, and that's why there was 6 sacks and umpteen number of pressures, and they couldn't run the ball.
And Mike, to your point about that, Drake May faced a lot of pressure in the playoffs. He did in the regular season, like I said before, in large part because of their easiest regular season schedule this past season. So, another part of the role that a few things I want to talk about before I move on, Blake, is what I should know about Sam Darnold. Well,
yes, we got to mention Sam.
We do because he has played. Well, if you want to know about him, well, he was born in Dana Point, went to Salamota, California, out there in the LA, Southern California area, went to high school.
Mm-hmm.
He went to USC for a few years in last decade, and then he became the first quarterback to break through and won the Super Bowl in the 2018 draft class, surpassing Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen. Who knows? Maybe he could be the next quarterback to win the Super Bowl, but I highly doubt it. I'm not going to go that far, and Josh Rosen. So about Sam Darnold. Well, I hope Davis is listening because because there's a lot because there's a whole list of NFL teams that he played for during his career in the NFL. He played for the Jets. I think that we can all agree that nobody wants to play there because they are a dumpster fire and just the worst franchise, I think, in all of the NFL that we can all agree on.
Yeah.
And he played for Blake Lumberger's Carolina Panthers for a few years, and then he, believe it or not, he was with San Francisco with the 49ers for a year, along with Kirk Kubik as a passing coordinator together. So it turns out that they did have a relationship before in that same division before coming to Seattle, and then yes, he played his long tenure with Davis's Minnesota Vikings, but before making the transition trade out to the current president Seahawks as the current QB quarterback, which they traded in for Geno Smith, who by the way, which not a great a bust quarterback, which I feel like is a great fit because with the Seahawks, the reason why the Seahawks won the second Super Bowl is they made all the great trade draft picks in the draft a few years ago. It made
Some
all
great
those
some great
some great
transactions from
pieces on their defense. It's
GM
part of
John
why they
Schneider.
built that Super team. Got to give him a lot of credit. John Slayer is the best in business, and I think he give him a
Can't
lot of
argue with
credit
that.
for credit because he worked hard and
He pulled the
and
Vikings pants down, that's for sure.
well, yeah, because that's not his. Well, yeah, they had no choice but to do it. But yeah, that's really but yeah, that's how the Seahawks won the Super Bowl is building a culture and a championship. And the next thing you know about the Seahawks is that we could be looking at a next era rivalry and then also Sean McVay. No, Mike McDonald. Excuse me, sorry, Mike McDonald becoming the youngest head coach at 38 years old. On that some great league company on that list, joining Mike Tomlin and Sean McVay.
Mm-hmm.
And important to note that they play in the same division. That got me thinking, even though we're heading into offseason now, but that got me thinking that we've had John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin battle in the AFC North.
Right.
Well, that got me thinking that we could be headed towards a Sean McVay and Mike McDonald's youngest coaches battle in the NFC West for a few years.
Could
probably
have a decade of Rams Seahawks battles, huh?
Yeah, a new NFL renew rivalry in the making. So I think that would be very fun to watch.
For that.
Yeah. And also note that Kenneth Walker has won the most valuable player, and
of course have to mention him.
Yes, and he joins a great elite company on that list, joining Terrell Davis back in the late 90s in the 1997 season.
Not as common as you think. I was surprised to see that.
Also, but it doesn't stop there. Also joining Evan Smith, who's won 3 Super Bowls with the Dallas Cowboys, greatest legend ever in the running back class. So lots to like there, and also have to mention about the Seattle defense. They also joined the Washington Burgundy and Gold Redskins / Commanders team back in the 91 season, and MVP Mark Ripley won that year. And also you can argue that the Seahawks defense could very well be in the same category, that they're right up there with them on the Rams' greatest show on turf Super Bowl, which I feel like is their circus. And so I think, and so you can make the argument that I feel like for the Seahawks second Super Bowl, they are calling it the dark side, where Blake mentioned when the first Super Bowl when they had Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson, they call it the Legion of Boom. So the first one was Legion of Boom. Second one was the dark side, as it was started by their defensive players. So
got to have a clever nickname,
right.
for sure. No, I mean that's
yes, exactly, yes.
It's some comprehensive stuff there for sure, and well said. Let me circle back to Sam Darnold though. You mentioned Davis was a Vikings fan. I remember I spoke to him earlier in the season. Obviously, it was a gamble, quote unquote, to obviously let Darnold go and bring in McCarthy, second year player who missed his first year. I mean, probably in your worst nightmare, you wouldn't have imagined it's. I mean, I guess my question is there any percentage of you that could find happiness seeing Sam Darnold succeed, or is it all regret for, man, that could have been Minnesota in this position?
A little bit of both. I think Sam's a great guy. He left Minnesota very amicably. He's always said good things about the organization, about the coaching staff, about the fans. I like him as a person. It is very painful to watch when you make such a big swing on a young quarterback and then you go see the guy you let walk go win a Super Bowl. I don't think he, really carried the Seahawks to the playoffs by any means. I think he had, honestly, the first half for him was pretty similar to Drake May. I think there's still a lot of questions about how elite he really is. I think that defense did an amazing job. But it is tough. I think, we won 14 games with Minnesota last year. And our defense was really primed to make a playoff run too. So if we kept him around, who knows what our season would have looked like.
Same exact record that Seattle had this year. It was Minnesota last year, wasn't it? Yeah.
Tough to watch, but he's a great player and a great guy. So I can't be too upset.
Mike, what did you make of Darnold's season? I mean, were you giving up on him being not even a Super Bowl quarterback, but a winning quarterback? I mean, how surprised were you with the season that he put together?
I wasn't too surprised. I mean, um, given the fact that Seattle's defense, I mean, defense wins championships, and he did more than enough not to lose the games, for Seattle.
0 turnovers the entire postseason.
And that says a lot. I mean, getting back to Walker, Walker is the first running back to win MVP in the Super Bowl in 28 years. So are we going to see a resurgence of the running back?
Yeah, I thought maybe I think people thought Saquon was going to win it last year if the Eagles won, but
Mm-hmm.
I guess he ended up having maybe a quieter Super Bowl than he would have thought. But
Yeah.
yeah, that stat surprised me. I think it's only 8 all time,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm not mistaken. Which, given the importance at the running back position, maybe played historically in the NFL, that was surprising. But I mean, a well-deserved winner. Walker was. He was just kind of carrying the load for Seattle in that game, wasn't he? So
Yeah, I mean, 134 yards, and he had, I don't know, 40 some yards or receiving yards as well. He had a tremendous game. I think he took. I mean, every time he carried the ball, I mean, he was just, he's a bowling ball going down the field. Nobody could touch him.
yeah, I know on the NBC broadcast, I think Collinsworth kept pointing out like his running style is very distinct. If you
Hmm.
watch him, what are you laughing at, Jack? You're laughing at Chris Collinsworth?
No,
Like,
I'm
oh,
just
Mike, Kenneth
no.
Walker, man. I
He
love
was
this.
he was running very patiently.
No, yeah. So that was what he was saying is that if you watched him, he was almost just kind of like walking behind the offensive line looking for his hole, and he
Hmm.
was doing it very successfully. And I think maybe I don't know if more running backs don't do that or why they're not more patient. Maybe it's just his style, but he was really dissecting the Patriots defense and finding the gaps to great success in that game, wasn't he? So
Yeah.
Yeah, I can correct myself here. 145 yards for Kenneth Walker, 26 rushing yards. So
yeah,
close enough.
it was interesting because I mean, obviously he didn't get a touchdown in the end, did he? But
No,
I
no.
mean, honestly, I could definitely make a case for this Seattle punter. Forgive me, I don't have his name pulled up right now, but um, like the kicking game, and I think that's probably a point that we should make about the Seattle team is we make mention that like how historic their defense was, and it was amazing. But you have to give credit, I think, to head coach Mike McDonald for just building a complete football team in terms of the field goal kicker, nailing his kicks, the punter, pinning him back in the 10, the defense showing up, the offense being able to run the ball, hitting on the draft pick. Jack mentioned the first year guard Zabel they drafted in the first round. Just plug and play. I mean, second round rookie safety or defensive back, safety cornerback, Emmanuel just plugging in there. So I think it just kind of speaks to the organizational competence, if I can use that phrase, that Seattle has, where just like everything just seemed to work really well. So, like you mentioned, Sam Donald, they're not asking him to do as much as the Patriots were asking Drake May to do because just everything was, everything was just functioning the way that it was the regular season as they would expect, and everything was just going going beautifully for Seattle really. And I think that kind of you saw that in some of the I think even some of the post game reactions for them. People were saying that like how I guess like calm and relaxed that Darnold and all the Seahawks players seemed after the game because like I think in my opinion they were expecting to win and they weren't surprised by like how the game went, as like crazy as that sounds for winning the Super Bowl. So yeah, I just think it was a really just efficient performance from Seattle. And like it wasn't the greatest from like a neutral's perspective in terms of like nailing field goals in the first half and all that stuff. But like I think Seattle's that kind of team that like we don't really care how we win the game. We know what we're good at and we're gonna go out there and execute kind of thing. So I think that was Seattle's style throughout the regular season and no different in the playoffs either. But Jackson, we should mention as well kind of after where we stand. So the Patriots this was their. I was actually surprised too. This was their 6th ever loss in the Super Bowl. So they're now have
Six and six.
tied for the most wins and by far have the most Super Bowl. Well, I guess they have one more than Denver actually. Um, and the Seahawks are now 2-2 in the Super Bowl. But kind of interesting stat. I thought for that. The Patriots have never won a Super Bowl without Tom Brady now, which is kind of interesting as well. So maybe it speaks to your case about they might not be back sooner rather than later. But I think maybe like I guess you mentioned a little bit before, Mike, in terms of like where you think the Seahawks, this Super Bowl, kind of like elevates them as a franchise. Obviously, they're not like one of the historic like Steelers Cowboys kind of thing, but do you think like the fact that the Seahawks have been so good in the 21st century, let's say, kind of like consistent, and maybe just it speaks to the fact that they've gone through different iterations of their team. They had Russell Wilson making back-to-back, winning one, losing one, a couple down years, and I think it's impressive that they're able to rebuild and get right back to this place so quickly than people thought. So I guess my question to you, Mike, would be like, how impressive do you think like it was that this team was being able to be put together where you see teams like the Jets, Jackson mentioned, who can barely win, 5 games every year, whereas Seattle's able to kind of like build a Super Bowl team, it seems like in a couple of years, right?
Yeah. No, I'll answer it this time next year.
We'll see.
I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
if Seattle does well again, then you could be right. But you know, a lot can change in a year. But you can't take what they accomplished this year away. Going in my mind was, what if the Mariners actually made it to the World Series,
Oh
man? It'd be
man,
big
I don't
party
know.
in Seattle.
it could have been an all-time year for Seattle sports, but
I mean
But
they've had a good year up there. Their sports.
yeah, well, I said that they're a Seahawks town, so I would even go that far for being a baseball town right there. But excuse me, but to your point on the Seahawks of where things are, well, you mentioned about the Seahawks. Well, they had like 26 something turnovers in every season that they do in the postseason. It's crazy to even think that, but also to point out that they were also 60-1 odds to make it to the big game and win the Super Bowl, which is crazy. Like, how does that even happen?
I wish
Like,
I had that ticket, man.
well, I know, and you think about it, the last team that in that instance that had that kind of a long shot odds was actually Tom Brady, and the Patriots did it in the 2001 season. So
Mm,
think about that for a second, and also looking at the current odds to see who's favored to win the Super Bowl, it is Seattle, but depending on what website you're looking at, it is the Seahawks, followed by the Rams, Bills, Eagles. But an interesting fact: the Seahawks and the Patriots are not favored to win in their respective divisions. So
you're
that
joking.
I'm not even joking, and that might have a lot of perspective of how of Josh Allen being a lot better of a striker schedule than the Patriots are, and for Seattle, well, as they are favored to win the Super Bowl, that doesn't mean they're favored to win the division. A large part because the Rams are going to be better, possibly the 49ers. So
Stafford's a year older
it's
though.
that's true,
I know he's the MVP, but
but
yeah,
that's true. But at the same time, you've got a loaded NFC West that could really be up for grabs. So that's why the oddsmakers are have the Rams win that division in large part because Stafford might be coming back from 1 year and the 49ers might be getting better and healthy than they were this past season. So
mm,
yeah, there is lots to play in the NFC West, but every year is different. You got a lot of turnover on players after free agency and coaches like Kurt Kubiak and Kenneth Walker and those guys. Possible in free agency. I hope they re-sign him, but like I said, like we said last year when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, every year is different. It's hard to repeat, but you never know. But
for
Seattle's
sure.
still favored. But I think this is going to be one of the off seasons to keep your eye on and watch. But every year is different. Schedules are different. But that's really how it all can play a factor. But yes.
Well,
Super Bowl
Jackson, let me
61 we're around the corner, and that's where things stand currently for the sporting betting odds makers.
let me ask you. I know you had your eye on the Super Bowl parade in Seattle. I didn't get a chance to check it out. So what was the reaction in the city from what you could see? Obviously, we know the 12th man. Seattle is known for having the loudest, most passionate fan base in the NFL. So I'm sure the celebration in Seattle was quite the festivity. I'm sure it wasn't, it, Jack?
It sure was, Blake, and they were some chants, and they were doing the Seahawks chants, and the fans were so into it. They were so rowdy and they were so loud. They were pumping them out. The crowd was really into it. It was electric. It was it was fun to watch. They were really into it. There was a bunch of excitement and vibe going on there at Lumen Field. They were getting shouts to the crowd, and then they did drop some f bombs by one of the players
It happens
when they were speaking, but whatever. They get to say whatever the heck they want out there. They don't have any rules like we do.
There's no rules if you win the trophy.
Lombardi
trophy.
That's part of their DNA and their culture there. I mean, what do you expect? That's really their lifestyle compared to us, where we don't say that stuff because we're a famous show where we're on the air. And
I won't say anything. I promise.
Well, yeah, it's especially those swear words that they were saying out there. But anyway, all I'm saying is that they had some fun. They enjoyed this moment, and they really lived it. And they were so
the 12s
excited.
Were having a good time.
They definitely were. And it's interesting because usually they do the parade on their double-decker buses, but they actually did it on the reverse side of things, where they would do the parade first, and then they would do the victory ceremony parade at Milan Field first, and then they would do the parade route after. So usually most sports teams would do the parade route first, and then the victory ceremony celebration. But the Seahawks decided, I think we're going to do something different compared to any other sports teams out there. So they did the opposite, where they do the parade, where they do the victory ceremony first, and then the parade route last. And that's something that I find very unusual. But overall, Cooper Kupp and Ernest Jones and Nick Ermine, Devin Witherspoon, and Rahad Shadi and Kenneth Walker and Mike McDonald were at the mic, living their moment. The crowd was really into it. They were electric, and they were there in so much excitement, and they were into it and celebrating and enjoying this moment. And the Seahawks crowd was packed, and I can tell you the last time they had a parade, it was cold and chilly, but this time around it was warm and sunny and nice. And that was what was different about this one. So
I wish I was there, man. Looks like a fun time.
Well, yeah, and they finally won the second Super Bowl and to be part of the history, and they were all in it, and they were chanting that they want to get a repeat, even though I don't want to go ahead get ahead of myself here, but they were just.
I heard talking dynasty now.
Well, yeah, they were. I did hear a huge chance of that, and
easy.
I'm not going to hit myself, but
it's a competitive NFC.
Well, yes, and also one of the points. Yes, exactly. And so the Seahawks got the parade in. There were a bunch of people all over the city celebrating. They were climbing on trees and lamp poles, and although I will tell you, they don't get crazy like Philadelphia does.
Right.
They won the championship last year, so they
different. It's a West Coast versus East Coast. They're a bit more chill, laid back.
East Coast people
out in the water.
Well, yeah, exactly. East Coast people, for when they win championships, they go a lot more crazy and out of hand.
Philly in specific is a different
kind of culture atmosphere for how their fans react compared to Seattle, which I feel like they do things differently out there than they do in Philly, like you said. But anyway, the Seahawks. Before we move on,
good time though. Yep.
Oh yeah, very good time, great times, good vibes. And anyway, the Seahawks joined the Eagles, the Buccaneers, and probably the Bears. Not the Bears, but they joined the Buccaneers and Eagles, and to name a few that have won multiple Super Bowl titles, and that's where things stand. And the Dolphins too. So let's not forget about them. And to name a few that I can think of that won multiple Super Bowl titles. So they're right up there with them. And Seattle won the second championship in team history, and they deserve it. They enjoy the moment, and
absolutely.
And the Seahawks can finally celebrate after all these 12 years from getting their revenge from the Malcolm Butler interception, which I can definitely say it could be the thing in the past, because let me tell you, those Seattle fans are tired for what happened in that last Super Bowl.
Yeah,
after revisiting it,
but they're getting sick of seeing all the highlights on SportsCenter. From last Super Bowl, and now they're able to
they can now that they can taste it and finally won it and got the revenge. I can finally say that the Seahawks have got their revenge from the Patriots.
Yeah, and let's be
After
honest, we
after all
all
these 12 years later.
everyone on this podcast can agree. We love seeing the Patriots lose a big game, don't we? So that we can all agree on. But yeah, I mean, I guess Jackson mentioned, the NFC West is going to be competitive again next year. The AFC East will be competitive as always. Davis, do you think it's going to be a case of like Seattle will be, they'll be one of the favorites for sure? Do you think maybe the AFC is going to be a bit more, wide open again next year? Like the Patriots, obviously, some people thought it was a fluke. The Chiefs fell off. The Bills had that tough loss. Denver obviously had that Bo Nix injury, right? So, do you think it's a case of all these circumstances helped the Patriots this year, and so maybe we'll see different teams, or I don't know how are you reading the AFC this upcoming season?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the Patriots will have a tough time next year. I don't know that they'll be able to get in the position that they had this year. We had a lot of really, really good teams that underperformed in the AFC. Think about the Bengals, the Ravens, who were going to have a new coach, but still a great roster in place. The Bills are always going to be dangerous, and the Chiefs wildly underperformed this year. I think all of them will be playing much better football next year. So the Patriots are going to have a tough time getting back, even into the playoffs. So we'll see what happens.
Well, are you predicting a playoff? Patriots miss the playoffs here on?
They might miss the playoffs. I think
well,
the Bills
book
win that
one.
division, and then who knows? It's going to be tough.
You never know. You never know. What about Denver? I mean, you're obviously you live in Denver, and so they were number one seed. Disappointing way to end the season. Starting quarterback getting knocked out.
Yeah.
Snow Mageddon in the second half, limiting the offensive potential. Do you think they possibly might have missed a really good opportunity given the fact they were number one seed to, I mean, at least make the Super Bowl, possibly even win it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll continue to build next year. I think they'll have a little bit of a better season than the Patriots do next year. I think Bo Nix, once healthy, is going to be pretty dangerous. They have a really good roster there. They have good ownership, good roster they're building. I think they'll be pretty consistent, honestly. But I do agree on that point. They'll probably have a little bit more trouble next season. I do think they missed a pretty big opportunity this year. If they had made it to the Super Bowl, I think they would have put up a better performance than the Patriots did, personally.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Mike, it's funny how, some teams have their window that you think is bigger than it is. And so maybe it's the Broncos missing out because of a snowstorm and an injury to their quarterback. Maybe it's the Patriots, not getting back to this point for longer periods than we think. But what's your outlook on the season? We're obviously early talk, just a week off from the Super Bowl. But do you think we're going to see some new teams start dominance, or maybe back to the status quo of who we think are the good teams in the NFL next year?
Well, I think the AFC West is going to be very competitive next year. Broncos, Chargers, and the Chiefs. I think the NFC East is going to be very competitive. Commanders had a heck of a lot of injuries this year, which really shut them down. I think Cowboys are going to be a good team. So you got the Cowboys, the Commanders, and the Eagles, and don't forget the Giants with their new coach.
Harbaugh.
John Harbaugh, yeah.
They got Harbaugh out there in New York now, huh?
They're gonna be very competitive.
And they're going to be tough to beat.
I'm not sure about the NFC South.
Well, I mean, it's funny. I think, I mean, my last point before we move off the NFL, but it's just, I think it is funny how much of a role like the divisions and the playoff seeding comes down to like the circumstances. Because, I mean, the Rams could feel pretty hard done by the way that the playoff seeding and all that is done. And I mean, if you remember back to that crazy Thursday night game where the Seahawks ended up getting that 2-point conversion because there was the backwards pass that Kenneth Walker picked up. If the Rams win that game, they're in all likelihood the top seed in the NFC. And I mean, who's to say they would have lost to Seattle anyways? But I mean, having to play that game in LA versus going up to Seattle, the NFC title game, I mean, would have been a huge difference. And obviously they had to go on the road to, I mean, Carolina. They almost lost here in Carolina and then Chicago. So I think you're right, Mike. It's very year by year in terms of like you just never know like where you're going to have to go, who's going to be injured, and who's going to win their division. It's just there's so many variables, right?
Yeah. Well, I think the NFC North is going to be very competitive. You got
For sure. Chicago's
yeah,
is on the rise for sure, aren't they?
the Bears.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
the Bears, and so yeah. More point that I have to say that watching the parade, that I noticed that in Women's Field that they didn't that it wasn't still a crowd in the stadium, but it was a heavy crowd outside of Milan Field in the streets of Seattle, like the largest crowd ever. Maybe it's the largest since the last time they had a Super Bowl parade there. So that's something that I find interesting, and that's Super Bowl parade. But anyway, the '85 Bears, like Mike said, the '02 John Gruden Buccaneers team right there with them, and the 2000 Ravens, like you guys said, yeah, those teams are all right there with our Seahawks defense.
Yeah. Just don't forget what NFL really stands for.
The
Not for
National Football League.
not for long.
Not
Ooh.
so. Are you call so Mike? Are you calling this the not for long league?
Is that what you're
Should we
saying here?
shouldn't we tell Roger? Shouldn't we tell Roger Goodell that to directly to his office?
Somebody get Raj on the phone. The
Yeah.
not for long league. So wait,
It's
are you saying
not
that?
for long.
Well, okay, we heard it
I
here
mean,
first.
you could
Drake.
be on, what I mean is you could be on top one day, but you you may not be on top for long.
Sounds to me like you're calling out Drake May and the Patriot fans for having an easy schedule and cakewalk into Super Bowl. But we'll leave that for another time. Sorry, Patriots fans out there, but yeah, I mean, listen, I thought it was a great Super Bowl. We like Seattle. We went to a game out there last year. We had a great time. We're obviously fans of them and what they're doing out there. So yeah, I thought it was a great game, and I think it was the right team won the Super Bowl. I think they're, like I mentioned earlier, they're a complete team. So so shout out to Seattle, and congratulations on their second Super Bowl victory. So go win it again next year. How about that?
That's right.
All right. Well, we got a couple minutes left. I wanted to touch upon a little bit of Winter Olympics, if I can. In case you missed, I know there's so much football going on, but football season is now over. Usually this time of year, there's not much going on, is there? But luckily, we got the 2026 Winter Olympics happening in Milan and Cortina. Um, and so I thought we would just do a quick update on some of the events that have happened or are happening in the future. Today, for example, was the start of the U.S. and Canada men's team hockey. So for the first time, the NHL is allowing, first time since 2014, the NHL is releasing their players to play in the men's hockey. Pretty comprehensive victories for both Team Canada over the Czech Republic and the U.S. over Latvia today as well. So it really is shaping up for a collision course for the USA versus Canada for that hockey. But Mike, I know you're a big puck guy. You have your eye on this USA, Canada, and some of the NHL players we got going, right?
Yeah, well, I also got my eye on the women's hockey.
For sure.
USA women took Canada 5-1 the other night.
So do you think USA can defeat the Canadians, or
Well,
is it going to be a tight
both the
contest?
women's and the men's, it could be a USA versus Canada finals in both.
It's shaping up like that, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, on the Canadian men's team, Josh Morsey uh, went out with a leg injury,
Okay.
so he may or may not still be out. But you know, one of the
Man,
things I saw today, and I've got to give a shout out to Jessie Diggins, who became my new hero. She won the bronze medal in the 10K cross country skiing
Mm,
event.
Mm.
Um, I believe it's like her fourth Olympic medal, but first individual medal in the Olympics. But she just gritted it out, and she had a rib injury she sustained the first event that she played in. So with rib injuries, she's given it all, and all the women crossing the 10K were they just all pretty much collapsed. I
yeah.
mean, talk about giving it all to their sport, and nobody else, not a whole lot of people watch that kind of sport, but being one that's run a few marathons in my lifetime, I can really appreciate those endurance type of athletic events. And man, she just really, she gave it her all. And big shout out to Jessie Diggins.
No, I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
imagine going through that process by doing it on skis, Jackson. I mean, that just makes it, doubly more impressive. So,
yeah.
got to give credit.
It's yeah. Those snow conditions down those ski slopes um, down in Italy, which I'm not really a fan of because they just don't really look very smooth in tough conditions, which is why Lindsey Vonn crashed it for 13 seconds last Sunday.
They're
So,
doing their best.
well, yeah, but it's not our fault, and it's not the Olympic Committee's fault for the conditions of those
Sure.
of that downhill for that event. But you gotta
What have you
send
what
her
have you
thoughts and prayers.
enjoyed? What have you
But you got it
enjoyed?
right. But you
Okay.
got to send her thoughts and prayers to her, and she's going through
To
her
Lindsey Vonn, yeah.
surgery and the best ever. And that,
Yeah.
as you would hate to see it for end of her Olympic career at 41 years of age, that at the same time, that you have to realize that she does make a great point that skiing is a dangerous sport. That there's a lot of risk
Don't I know it?
involved, and that she almost could have killed herself and died. Luckily, the rescue uh, helicopter and crews people were on the scene to lift her up to a nearby hospital near where the crash site was, and that she's now in full recovery, and that's the good news is that she is in recovery in Italy. That she probably won't be and that's most likely going to be the end of her Olympic career. I think what's next for her is that she's going to be a Olympic commentator for the next Olympics in 2030, and
We'll see her on Peacock soon.
Yes, exactly. Which I would love to say. So
Yeah.
so yes, that would. As much as you hate to see it, but at the same time, that you got to be very proud, even though it's not the way that you want to see her end her career.
For
But
sure.
but you got to be very proud for what she has accomplished.
Yes.
For all those medals that she has accomplished over those years during her time as an athlete.
What have you enjoyed watching most event-wise, Jackson, so far?
Well, for focusing in on Team USA,
Or just in general, just any event that you've enjoyed watching. Just give us your insight.
yes, I want to get a shout out to Alia Morena, speed skating athlete from Vienna, Virginia, not far from where Uncle Mike resides, a local athlete. So
Nice.
he's won a gold medal in the team event, and that's something that's something that really stood out to me so far in these games is Laguna and also for me for what stood out is
Any other sports you got your eyes on?
for what stood out for tonight. I'm going to have to say I'm really going to have to say probably more figure skating. Probably more.
Yeah, they're getting a lot of attention. The figure skaters as well.
Snowboarding
Oh,
and the slalom and the different downhill individual events, and definitely really in the snowboarding, especially for
for sure. There was
for Keo Kim who came away with a silver medal too.
Yeah,
so,
she was looking to get her third straight gold today. Unfortunately, came up with the silver, but I mean, gosh, it's still an impressive run for her. So yeah, shout out to Chloe Kim for sure.
And also want to shout out to the U.S. women's curling team that made it all the way to the gold medal game, but end up walking away with a silver medal. And yeah, the Swedish were the better team and came away with gold.
Those Swedes,
but
got to give credit.
That's right. Due. But you got to be very proud they made this far, and you are walking away with a silver medal for Team USA in women's curling. Also,
for sure.
But also in speed skating, Jordan Scholes won yesterday for his first ever medal. He trained very hard at the World Championships last year. Jordan Scholes, a Wisconsin native from Wisconsin. He grew up. You love the story. He grew up in a in a pond in Wisconsin, and he dreamed for this moment, and he dreamed.
He lived in a pond.
Well, no, he
lived next to a pond.
He lived next to a pond, and he. Well, no, I wouldn't say. I want to go
No,
that far.
no, we're teasing.
I would just say that he lived near a pond, but they built a rink next to it. Is all I'm saying. Somewhere in rural Wisconsin, but then he lived close by the rink. But then he's lived this dream in this moment all of his life, and he's definitely got to make him more proud. But
yeah, for sure. Jackson, let me interrupt you there for a second.
Sorry, Blake.
Sure.
Is that also? I want to shout out that the women's USA luge team won a medal for the first time since the 2014 Sochi game. So
okay, nice.
So definitely want to give out. So definitely a lot more shout outs to Team USA out there. For
of course,
those who are listening, Blake.
Yeah, for sure. There'll be a lot more events coming up soon. Davis, any events you've been able to catch so far, or looking forward to next week or two? Games going on?
Really pumped for hockey kicking off, but so far I've been keeping up with skiing a little bit. I really like the slope style events where they hit the ramps and the rails. That's really cool to me. I've always loved watching it. One of our Americans unfortunately got hosed in his event, ended up with silver, but I won't say anything further on that. But yeah, looking forward to hockey.
Yeah,
the figure skating's been amazing too. There's some incredibly talented people in that field.
Yeah, no, for sure. I like some of the big air on the skiing as well. Like some of those events, just super impressive, honestly. And I mean, it's all these Olympians, skiing, snowboarding. It's just such a high level of difficulty, and seeing them go out there and execute, given the pressure, the scrutiny every 4 years, kind of thing, it's been really impressive. But the medal count, Jackson, as we stand here right now, the most golds, surprisingly, are actually belong to the Norwegians, if you can believe it. Seven golds. Italy with 6, and the U.S. Tied with a couple other countries in 4. Overall medal count also belongs to the Italians right now. So the U.S. has got some work to do in terms of that medal count, don't they? But there's a lot of events left. So plenty of time to make that up, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And Davis, you would appreciate this about the USA hockey rivalry. Well, there's some bad blood. These teams do not like each other. They dislike each other. And
back to the 4 nations, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And in my opinion, it is right up there with Michigan, Ohio State in college football, Duke, Carolina in college men's basketball, and the Yankees, Red Sox in Major League Baseball. It just shows you of how intense the most hated rivalries out there in all sports. That's right there with them. It just shows you how much bad blood there is, and how these teams dislike and hate each other, as there's so much hatred, and there's really a lot of bad blood going at it for these two teams that I can think of that's in that same category. Except I'm missing one: Real Madrid and Barcelona in soccer too. So there's that. So that just shows you how intense a rivalry is in all sports. That's involved with Team USA and Canada for our country, and for the borders up north for how intense it can be.
Yeah, for sure. I think Davis will agree. Most hockey fans in general would just be looking forward to a gold medal match between US and Canada. I think we've seen that before, I think, in previous games, but now that we have the NHL players involved, I think if we're able to get that USA Canada gold medal, it's going to be quite the spectacle. So I know I'm looking forward to that, and I'm sure hockey fans out there would feel the same. All right, I guess we are just about out of time here, gentlemen. So I want to say thank you for joining us on a excellent week of Good Guys Sports. It's sad, obviously, the football season officially over as we recap the Super Bowl. But hey, listen, we got plenty of things to look forward to. NFL draft. We got NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs.
And pitchers and catchers have reported.
There we go. Yeah, pitchers and catchers are there. It's never too far away, the sport that you want. And obviously, like we've just been talking about, Winter Olympics going out throughout the month of February. So plenty of sports to look forward to. Jackson, Mike, Davis, thank you for joining us this week. And we hope you have a great February, and go Team USA.
Go Seahawks. Let's run it back.
And Seahawks. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, gentlemen. Bye now.
Yeah.